Wanderers, bringing you a budget style video, budget information video today. This is a topic that I've been thinking about for quite a long time actually, and one that I've had some ideas that I wanted to bring to you guys. So basically, in no particular order other than the when they came to me, how they came to me. I have about 8 different ideas of ways to ways to trim your budget, things that you can either eliminate or at least scale back on. So this is basically geared for people who are working on budgeting, trying to find room in their budget, and you feel like you just don't have enough to put towards debt or enough to get ahead, to get the snowball rolling. Or if you're like me and you're moving towards paying off debt, but it just isn't fast enough and you're getting a little anxious, a little impatient. So this is a series of things that you can take a look at in your budget and either scale back on or eliminate altogether. Some can't be eliminated altogether, but we'll go into that with each item. So the first thing would be car insurance. This one I actually didn't really think about until I was listening to a video by His and Her Money, and they were talking about different ways to adjust your policy to maybe save a little bit of money. If you're following Dave Ramsey's plan and you're on baby step 2, you should, in theory, have a $1,000 emergency fund, baby emergency fund. And if that's the case, take a look at your car insurance policy. A lot of times the standard seems to be to have a $500 deductible. And if you have your $1,000 baby emergency fund, then there shouldn't really be any reason why you can't have a $1,000 deductible. So I did that, and it lowered my monthly payments, lowered my insurance rates. There's other things that you can look at, if you're driving a day rig car like we are, you don't necessarily need quite as much coverage, because if the car isn't really worth anything like ours, it's kind of silly and kind of pointless to be paying a whole lot into all this coverage when the car's not really worth anything to replace anyways. So, those are some things that we looked at. We took just take a closer look at your policy, see what it is that you're paying for, and see if there's any sort of coverage that really isn't necessary, maybe for the type of car or the value of the car that you're driving. So those are ways to scale back. And there's also other things. Different companies will offer different kinds of discounts. I know I have Nationwide, and they have a Smart Driver, Smart Ride, some sort of program that they have where you plug the little thing into the car. That's the extent of my knowledge on automobile mechanics and whatnot. But it basically monitors your driving, hard acceleration, hard braking, how long you're driving, during what hours you're driving, things that they determine are generally safer or less safe, and they'll give you discounts for that. And then there's other discounts for paying, like enrolling in auto pay, all sorts of things like that. So take a closer look at your car insurance policy and see if there's anything that you can do to maybe scale back on that, decrease your costs on that. The next thing is blow money. Most budgeters that I follow tend to have, pocket money and blow money, and I absolutely understand why, and it definitely is good for a lot of people to keep their spirits up while they're working on paying down debt. But if you're in a position like me where you're absolutely impatient and anxious and not necessarily a spender by nature, blow money is definitely something to look at. I actually didn't give myself any blow money for a long time, and then more recently, once I noticed that just little things would come up, I would just put a miscellaneous fund in my budget for about $10. But definitely that's something to look at. If you're really just impatient about getting the debt paid down, that's something to consider eliminating if you want to speed things up a little bit. So that's something that we've done. clothes funds. And a lot of this for me kind of wraps into the whole minimalism idea and basically just having the things around you that you absolutely need and you absolutely love. So if you're looking at your wardrobe and it's either overflowing, or if you're already stocked with the things that you need, you know, you may not necessarily need to be setting aside money every month or spending money every month on more clothing if you already have the things that you need. So, you know, kind of assess your situation and see, you know, is that something that you can hold off on, you know, while you're working on making some headway, you know, building up your snowball and paying down some debt. Another one for me is haircuts. I've actually not paid for haircuts in a very long time. I actually stopped paying for haircuts before I ever started budgeting, but once I did start budgeting, I was grateful that I wasn't having to find room in my budget for haircuts. I cut my hair myself. Mostly, it's probably more of a psychological thing because I had a bad experience one time in like 8th grade. So pretty much ever since then, I kind of have trust issues, and I just cut my hair myself because I worry that I will lose too much of it. So, you know, if you're comfortable, if you try and keep things simple, you know, if you're not looking for obviously something particularly fancy, a lot of color, or you know, just complicated cuts or things like that, you know, see if that's something that maybe you can just kind of keep things trimmed on your own at home. In terms of both RJ and Gab, the guys in the house, we use the clippers, the buzzer. Gavin says, you know, we don't cut his hair, we buzz his hair. So, you know, we keep things simple and we do it ourselves, and we don't spend any money on that. So that's something that we save money on in our budget. Another thing would be eating out. When I made this list, we hadn't eaten out in probably nearly a year, which is crazy. The last couple of weeks we've been a little bit guilty and a little bit lazy and not wanting to make Saturday dinners, so we have eaten out a little bit more. But that's definitely something that if you're able to, you know, you're gonna save money if you buy your groceries, you buy your food in the store and make your food at home. Regardless, you're gonna save money by doing that. So it's a lot more mental, I think, than you know, anything else. Just making yourself kind of buckle down and make the food at home. If you're concerned that your schedule is going to be really restrictive and you don't have time for it, definitely consider you know, meal prepping and planning meals ahead of time, you know, getting all of the work done ahead of time so you can just maybe throw something in the stove or in the microwave, something like that. But eating out it's something that we don't budget much for at all. It's pretty rare. Like I said, except for the last couple of weeks, we actually have been getting Moe's probably twice in the last month, and we got Taco Bell last weekend, which was really naughty. But definitely consider cutting out or at least scaling back on your eating out budget. That's going to go a long way, a really long way. Cable. Cable's a huge one. If you're still paying for cable, I'm not really sure why. We cut the cable cord again before we started budgeting. I was starting to look into budgeting and look into ways that we could save money, and cable was definitely a big one to go for us because we were paying for, you know, several hundred channels that we watched maybe 5 of. So it ended up being a no-brainer. We were a little concerned at first because a lot of our daily routine revolved around just having the television on. But if you pick up Hulu and Netflix, or even just Hulu, I feel like we could probably get away with just Hulu because the shows that we watch are all on Hulu. They're so much cheaper. They're so much cheaper, and you can watch the shows that you want when you want to watch them, and you're going to save so much money. So definitely consider cutting the cable cord. Another one is Christmas funds. For me, I've been scaling back on Christmas a lot the last few years, and I've been saving a lot of money doing that. I like to look at it as preferring Christmas to be a time to, get together with family, enjoy each other's presents instead of presents. Yeah. But definitely consider, maybe not focusing so much on, buying, big piles of presents and spending hundreds and hundreds and, over even thousands of dollars on it. I keep things really, really simple for Christmas. I generally only buy for the few kids in our family, and that's pretty much it. I might buy something for my parents and for my brother, but other than that, we try and keep Christmas really simple. Focus on the whole concept of just spending time with family and just enjoying each other during the season, and not building up expectations too. I'm trying with Gav, being about to turn 5, trying to not have his expectations set on things, and change the focus more to family and friends and relationships and things like that. So definitely consider, if you're setting yourself up for, and if you're planning for Christmas, planning ahead, fabulous. Please do that. That's such a better idea than, charging it up and then having to pay for Christmas all year long. So if you're saving for Christmas, by all means, please do. But definitely consider how much do you really need to be spending on Christmas, and can you maybe simplify it a little bit. And the last thing that I have on here is something that we've been considering and researching for a couple of years now, and it still hasn't come to fruition, but we're hoping to make it happen. A huge way to save some money in your budget is to downsize your living situation. So for us, we live in a just shy of 1,700 square foot house. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. It's a nice house, it's on an acre. We actually really don't spend as much for it as you might in other parts of the country. We're in upstate New York, in a pretty rural area, so we actually got a good deal on it. And as you can see from my budget, the mortgage is only just over $700. So it's a good price. But it's something that I've been fighting with for a while, and hoping to be able to eliminate altogether, in order to speed up our snowball process and debt payoff process. Something that we've been considering and we're still looking into is buying a piece of land and buying a prefabricated shed, which sounds ridiculous, but they do have some on the market now that are actually really nice, with lofts and porches, so it would be basically like a tiny cabin. We've been considering tiny living for several years now. We tried the whole tiny house thing only to learn that we're not carpenters. So I like the idea of a tiny cabin because it's already built, so I don't have to worry if it's going to collapse around us. And then we can just kind of finish out the inside really simply. Ideally for us, I'd love to get off the grid, because then we're really going to save a lot on our budget. We're not going to be paying for electricity either, as long as we get a solar setup. Living is going to be really simple and really inexpensive, and that would really, really ramp up our debt payoff. So it's something that we're researching. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we're looking into it. I do hope that it does, because I would love to document that sort of thing, take you guys with us, and go in that direction for a little while with the channel, but we'll see if it happens. It basically boils down to if we can find the right land for the right cost in the right area. So a lot of different variables are at play with that. So, but definitely consider, and if that's way beyond something that you'd feel comfortable doing, going as small as I'd be hoping to do like 12 by 24, which is maybe 240, 280 square feet. It's really small. If that's not something that you're comfortable doing. And again, this entire item is one that would really take people out of their comfort zone. But if it's something that, you know, it's either you're trapped in debt or, you know, you're considering this, definitely consider downsizing your housing situation. You know, if you can find a home or an apartment that's a little bit smaller, that'll save you a lot of money to do that. You know, it's definitely something to consider if that's going to be what's between you and getting out of debt. So definitely consider something like that. That's all I have for this list. I hope it's helpful for you. I hope you're able to take something from it that, you know, might be able to help you out with your budget. And I will see you guys again next time. Have a good day.